Hey, I'm Ryan with Soda Survival, and today we're talking about the SOG Aegis folding knife. So SOG stands for Studies and Observation Group. The company is called Studies and Observation Group Specialty Knives Company. It's been around since 1986, and it's inspired by the Joint Services Special Operations Unit, known as the Military Assistance Command Vietnam Studies and Observation Group, or MACV SOG. They developed their own knives during the war in Vietnam. So Aegis is Greek for protector, and it's an everyday carry knife. It's been my everyday carry for about 7 years. I've had to buy it twice. Once I lost during a foot pursuit. Loved the knife so much, I decided to go ahead and purchase it again. And I've even thought about purchasing a third just in case they stop production on this model. Now, when I say every day, I mean every day. I carry this thing everywhere, whether it's to work, kayaking, camping, around the house, to the store, everywhere. It's never left me in a spot where I wish I had a blade. I had this one and it didn't do the trick for me. I mean, whether it's in slacks, khakis, or gym shorts, this knife can be taken anywhere with you discreetly. The price point is excellent, the materials are great, deployment is swift and ambidextrous, and the features are not going to leave you wanting. So let's talk about the blade. This is definitely meant more of a scalpel, opposed to a workhorse or a pry bar, like some of the thicker blades that you're going to come across. It's made of AUS 8 steel, or AUS 8. I say AUS 8, I don't know if that's the proper pronunciation of it, but I do know that it's AUS 8 steel. It's a good mid-range Japanese steel. Keeps the cost down, but while still giving you a strong edge. This is a stainless. It's a low-carbon steel, so it's not going to be a high-carbon. It's going to be more prone to the edge bending than chipping, which on an everyday carry I prefer. It's easier to roll an edge back than it is to fill in and regrind down a chip. Just remember that no matter the steel, the responsibility of the use is better for sharpness retention than finding the magical alloy that's never going to dull on you. I take pretty good care of my blades, but I've never had any rust on this blade, even after submerged in brackish water on multiple occasions. There is, if you can see, a little bit of rust, just a tad, just on this one side of this thumb stud, which you can unscrew. But I mean, that's been there for years, and the cancer's never grown on it. I've snapped this very tip. I've just snapped that very tip off. It does come with a sharper tip than this one specifically. Just trying to open a door the wrong way, which is how I learned that it's better to take care of your knives and use the right knife for the right job. So the tip from the factory is incredibly sharp, and this knife would have very little trouble entering any material that it is capable of being cut. This version has a titanium nitrate coating, which is this black on the blade, for extra protection and extra points for sexiness, I think. I always get coated knives if I can, because the knives they're tools, and they come with me in all kinds of hazardous environments for steel. So if I can get something that's gonna protect the steel itself, I'm just gonna buy that. So the handle is made with variation of colors, obviously this one being black. And this is a glass reinforced nylon, or a GRN. So GRN is made with short glass fibers mixed with a polymer, so it's very moldable at creation, but it hardens into a chemical and shatter resistant lightweight material. So the clip, the Aegis has a removable ambidextrous steel clip with SOG stamped on it. The angle allows for a tight grip in your pocket or waistband. Even after 5 years, this knife still has a very tight clasp. And I do have difficulty getting it into gym shorts, something that's going to be a softer material, not rigid like a khaki or a jean or something. So you've got to hold the material pretty close as you're sliding this bad boy in. There are 5 small 1.5 millimeter Allen key screws along the top side of the handle near the spine. 4 screws are accessible from the left and 1 from the right, holding the clip in, and the hinge is a tiny T-style screw. You would not believe how many times I had to retake so I could say T-style type screw. Right here on the hinge. So let's go ahead and get into the weight and dimensions. So the Aegis weighs in at about 88.7 grams or 3.1 ounces. Its fully closed length is 4.78 inches, 8.25 deployed. The handle is just over half an inch wide at 0.56, 14.4 millimeters, and 0.72 or 18.3 millimeters, which includes the clip. The blade is a total length of 3.5 inches with a straight bird's eye measurement of 3.4, and the base of the blade's breadth is 1.2 inches, 31 millimeters, and it tapers down to a traditional drop point styling. It's 3.6 millimeters wide at the base of the spine and 0.8 at the top. So your blade is your typical drop point leaf style shaped blade. No swedge, no grind line. The entire blade is a primary bevel, which I love. It keeps it simple. The tip is incredibly sharp and thin, which is how I broke this one off. Make sure you don't try to use it for any prying action, or you will snap that very, very tip. I've done it twice on both of them that I own. Once was my fault, one was a friend's fault. It's simple to sharpen. It has no wild curves, no handle extras that make it difficult to get to the entirety of the secondary bevel. It drops very easy, as well with the whole blade exposed in a natural nice curve. So let's talk about the handle. The flow has an indent for your pointer and middle finger while swelling to fit the palm. Your thumb naturally rests right at the hinge of the jimping when you grab the knife. There's jimping on both the blade and the handle, which feels great in the hand and very secure. This blade is not going to slip out of a firm grip. Jimping is also present on the butt for a reverse grip, which is, I think, a well thought out addition. Indentation allows for easy access to the thumb stud, and scalloping for your first and second finger rests for extra grip. The handle has 3 strips of texture, repeating the SOG text, and then a line texture sprinkled across. The front quillion extends slightly further out than the blade, and the blade balance is near center just below the hinge. Alright, let's talk about the deployment. The Aegis has a quick, smooth action, they call it the SOG Assisted Tech, or SAT. It's just a standard spring-assisted action knife. By pushing the thumb stud, which I prefer over the spine-mounted protrusion that some have, where you flick it here. And then you kind of have to flick it and then readjust how you hold the knife. This one, you flick it and you're good. So the blade, like many of the SOG line, they have a blade lock, which they call the piston lock. It has its place, I'm sure, preventing the blade from deploying accidentally when you're pulling out of your pocket. I've deactivated mine by putting some epoxy inside to disallow the switch to activate. I mean, when I want a blade to deploy, I want it to deploy. No muss, no fuss. I've carried this blade every day for years now, like I said before, about 7 years, and I've never had an accidental deployment. But hey, more options are always better than less. So how do you stow this knife? You close this knife by using what SOG calls an arc lock release. It's a fancy name for just a crescent-shaped stud you pull towards the butt of the knife to release the blade. Now there is pretty good resistance when you close this knife. It starts about here. But that's the nature of spring-assisted knives. You've got to push past the resistance curve, put it back in the handle. I've only attempted the close of this knife one-handed when I first bought it, and again for the review of this video. If you have large hands, I could see it being more plausible. But with average size hands paired with the spring assists, it's much easier to stow this knife with 2 hands. So how do you carry the SOG Aegis? Well, the tip points up in the pocket when carried, which some people don't care for, but that's where your piston lock comes into play. This makes the clip obviously placed on the butt of the knife, and it allows for a deep carry with full concealing of the handle. The only giveaway is that SOG is stamped on the blade handle. It's not going to get confused for a pen if it's noticed, but you've got to notice it first. With a single 1.5mm Allen key, you can switch the clip from left-handed carry to the right-handed carry, which is always a great add on the blade. Again, the more options, the better. So how much is the SOG Aegis going to set you back? I bought mine for around the $70 range, but right now the knife comes in around $50, which is a great deal for such a great knife. It's right above that Mall Ninja cheap blade $20 that you get what you pay for, but not breaking into that super premium category where you wonder if the extra cath is really going to give you that much of higher quality. So that's a full review of the SOG Aegis folding knife. If you found value in this, if you wouldn't mind giving me a like, and then subscribe if you want to follow me on my homesteading journey. Primary and secondary finger. The more you go off script, Ryan, the more you f up. Screw is a tiny T-style screw. T-style screw.